For decades, if you drove down the main road of Heliopolis in Cairo, you couldn't miss it. Standing alone, alien, and imposing was a structure that defied explanation. It looked like a piece of India dropped into the Egyptian desert. It has been called many things: a masterpiece of reinforced concrete, a temple to ego. But for generations of Egyptians, it was simply the haunted palace. This is Qasr El Baron, the Baron Empain Palace, a place built on a dream, consumed by tragedy, and resurrected from ruin. Today, we are separating the history from the ghost stories to find out the truth about Egypt's most mysterious mansion. The mystery of Baron Palace. To understand the palace, you have to understand the man. Baron Édouard Empain was not your average tourist. He was an incredibly wealthy Belgian engineer and industrialist. He was the man behind the Paris metro. And when he came to Egypt at the turn of the 20th century, he saw opportunity. He didn't just want to build a house. He wanted to build an entire city. He bought a massive stretch of desert outside Cairo and began constructing Heliopolis, the city of the sun. He built the tram lines that connected it to central Cairo. He was the master of this new domain, and the master needed a castle. Around 1907, he chose a spot on a high artificial hill so his home would dominate the landscape. But Empain didn't want the traditional European or Islamic styles that surrounded him. He wanted something that would shock people. He commissioned French architect Alexandre Marcel. Marcel had seen the Hindu temples of Angkor Wat in Cambodia and the temples of Orissa in India. He brought those designs to Cairo. It was a radical fusion. Hindu statues, Buddhist figures, and sensual carvings, all built using a brand new, revolutionary technology of the time, reinforced concrete. And this brings us to the biggest legend of the palace, the rotating tower. Ask almost any local older than 40, and they will swear to you that the main tower was built on a massive mechanical turntable. The legend says the Baron wanted the tower to rotate 360 degrees so he could follow the sun all day, or perhaps keep a watchful eye over his entire city being built. It's a fantastic story that adds to the palace's mystique. However, during the recent restoration, architects and engineers found no evidence of complex machinery deep in the foundations that could rotate a concrete tower of that weight. But sometimes the legend is more powerful than the blueprint. Baron Empain died in 1929. He was buried in the Basilica Church nearby, which he also built. After his death, the palace began its slow descent into darkness. For decades it sat abandoned, and an empty house acts like a vacuum for rumors. This is where the history books close, and the Baron's curse begins. The tragedy starts with the Baron's family. The most famous story involves his sister, Helena. Legend says she fell to her death from the main tower balcony. Locals swear that the very moment she hit the ground, the famous rotating gears of the tower screamed to a halt. They say her spirit jammed the mechanism to stop the Baron from watching his city, and no engineer could ever fix it again. Then there is the tragedy of his daughter, Miriam. She suffered from psychological issues and was often isolated in the palace. She was found dead in the service elevator, the dumbwaiter that connected the kitchen to the roof. To this day, security guards claim that when the nights are quiet, you can hear the elevator gears grinding, moving between floors, carrying a passenger who isn't there. But the horror goes deeper. Down in the basement lies the infamous Pink Room. It was a room lined with mirrors that the Baron reportedly forbade anyone from entering. Urban legends claim that after the tragedies, the mirrors in this room wouldn't show your reflection. They would turn red, as if dripping with blood. And the neighbors saw things too. For 50 years, the palace had no electricity. Yet, residents in Heliopolis filed dozens of reports claiming to see lights flickering in the ballroom at 3 a.m. They heard classical music drifting across the street, as if the Baron was still hosting a lavish party for the dead. Some say the Baron never really left. There is a confirmed tunnel connecting the palace to the Basilica Church where he is buried. Explorers have claimed that if you stand near the tunnel entrance in the basement, you can hear heavy footsteps approaching from the dark, but nobody ever arrives. But the ghost stories turned into a very real national panic in the summer of 1997. By the 90s, the abandoned palace had become a hangout spot for local teenagers looking for privacy. In 97, police arrested a group of young Egyptians who were holding late-night parties in the palace, playing heavy metal music and wearing black. The Egyptian media sensationalized this completely. They labeled these kids Satan worshippers who were performing dark rituals and sacrificing cats inside the haunted palace. It was a classic moral panic. While it was mostly just kids listening to loud music in a spooky location, the media frenzy cemented the Baron Palace's reputation as a house of true evil in the minds of millions. After that, the government locked it down tight. For another 20 years, it stood silent. But in 2017, the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities began a massive multi-million-dollar restoration project. When the scaffolding came down, people were shocked. The palace was painted a burnt sienna, a reddish brick color. Many thought they had ruined it, but historical analysis proved this was the original color Baron Empain chose, inspired by the burnt red stone of Indian temples. In 2020, Qasr El Baron reopened as a museum. The ghosts, the Satanists, and the rotating gears are gone. What's left is an architectural marvel that survived a century of neglect. Whether you believe in the curses or just appreciate incredible design, the Baron Palace is finally receiving the respect its builder always dreamed of.